Joining us here today is Richard Brown. He is an Amarillo attorney and has been involved for many years in downtown redevelopment. Richard, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
The first question that everyone wants to know, you wore many hats in downtown redevelopment. Why did you walk away from those multiple roles?
Well, part of it was my decision to walk away, and part of it was the decision of the council that they wanted to have some new blood running some of the boards, and they're entitled to have people that are supportive of them, and that was their right to do so. I've been there a long time, and maybe having new blood's a good idea.
Okay. So what's your take then on the agenda of the three new councilmen and their view of the downtown project?
I don't think they have an agenda. I think that's the problem. There was a debate last night in which the question was asked, so if you do not vote for having a baseball stadium, what's going to be in the MPEV? What is Plan B? And the answer was, the only plan we have is we're against Plan A. I don't consider that to be a plan.
So what are your thoughts also, the recent development with Jarrett Atkinson's resignation? How do you view that action?
I view that as a very bad thing for the city of Amarillo. It's not good for the downtown projects, which is the thing I'm most knowledgeable about, but for the city of Amarillo as a whole, it's really a bad thing. We've now lost the city attorney, we've lost the city manager, the assistant city manager, the city attorney, the director of information and technology, and others. These positions all require highly skilled, experienced people who are not easy to find. For example, I think Amarillo is maybe the 14th largest city in Texas, so in theory, there's 13 other people in Texas who are more qualified than Jarrett. 13? So, okay, where are we going to find his replacement? It will not be easy, and you will have, what, a two-year transition period for the new person to begin to catch up?
So if you were a city councilman, what would you do at this point?
Well, at this point, obviously you need a new city manager. We have a city manager form of government here, which we've had since 1913. We were the first city in Texas to adopt that form of government, which recognizes that the city council is not competent to manage a city. They're volunteers. They get paid $10 a week. They come from different places and different experiences, but none of them are qualified to do water wells or sewer systems or anything else that a city has to do. So you have to have qualified professionals to run what's essentially the biggest business in town. So you better find some help, and you better find it soon.
You've been involved, give me an overview, since you've been involved for so long in the downtown plans, about the Catalyst project. What's your short version?
Well, the short version is I've been working on downtown since 1980, and the first 20 years you can summarize as nothing happened. And it's only the last 15 years where we began to see some progress. And mostly that's because the city council did get engaged and did recognize that decades of blight downtown and the loss of jobs had to be turned around. It's an important part of our city. It needed to be fixed. And with active city council engagement, we've had a remarkable turnaround.
So how are the three projects, everybody views them as three projects, but they're really one. How does this work?
Well, they're viewed as three projects because they're three separate buildings, but it's all part of a plan to have a catalyst project downtown. And by catalyst project, we mean city government, city dollars cannot by itself solve the issues that need to be solved downtown. You need to attract private dollars and private investment by making it a more attractive place to live, work, and play. So the hotel is happening. The parking garage is probably happening. I don't know if the multipurpose entertainment venue is happening or not, but collectively that is all supposed to generate renewed interest in investing downtown. We've already been successful in attracting approximately $100 million worth of new investment, which would not have happened if we continued to have the plan where we do nothing.
And that $100 million of investment includes?
Well, the biggest piece of it is the XL piece, which is about a $45 million building. And so when you look out at the city skyline, right now you will see a giant construction crane. It's the first time since 1982 you've seen a construction crane like that downtown. I think it's time that we see a little more of that.
And how do the three projects work as far as the garage and the stadium feeding the hotel and vice versa?
Well, they all work together, and really the fourth piece is the Civic Center. We're trying to maximize the utility and value of the Civic Center to the people of Amarillo. We want more conventions. And we couldn't get more conventions without having a headquarters hotel across the street. So the first piece was we have to have a headquarters hotel. Then the next piece was we have to have a place to park the cars, so you need a parking garage. And then the third piece, the multipurpose entertainment venue, is to get more people to come downtown, to want to be downtown, to shop downtown, work downtown, play downtown, so that you can inspire retail investment and make it a more walkable, more friendly place to be.
But specifically, fees flow, revenues flow from one project to another, or generate the users?
Yeah, it's a very complicated funding source and use of funds. I mean, the simple thing to do would have been to say, oh, well, let's have a bond issue, raise everybody's property taxes, and build these things. But no, the direction that the City Council chose to go 4 years ago was, let's get this done without raising property taxes. That didn't make it easier, it made it harder. And in a sense, we went looking for every nickel and dime we could find in the sofa cushions anywhere to get the project done. So it's complicated and hard to explain. But in summary, someone from out of town is giving us a $45 million hotel. So that piece, that's a really good piece. And then we do have to build the garage, and we have to get the MPEV done. Most of the funding will come from the hotel occupancy tax, which you don't pay and I don't pay unless you're sleeping in a hotel tonight, because it's a tax that is paid by people who sleep in hotels in Amarillo. So simplified, someone from Minnesota sleeps in Amarillo tonight, the state collects $1, it goes to Austin, part of that comes back to the city, and then the city makes a decision how to spend that money within the limitation of it's supposed to promote convention and tourism. That's what the multipurpose entertainment venue is all about. That's where the money's going.
You've said many times, no ballpark, no hotel, no parking garage, no hotel. And now we see that that the hotel is beginning construction. What's the answer for people wondering if the hotel has decided it can make it on its own?
Well, I think at this point the hotel is committed. The groundbreaking ceremony is on the 16th. They've actually already started. They're probably $2 million into it already. So that hotel is going to happen. What we want is for the hotel to be a big success. It's not going to be a four-diamond hotel, which it's supposed to be, if there's no place to park your car. So it is related in that we've got to have a parking garage across the street. And then that parking garage, one of the funding sources is the paid parking that will be in the garage. So you need to generate enough traffic to fill it up. Now we're a long ways there because Potter County is paying $1 million to park some of their cars over there. The hotel is going to pay to park their cars over there. But the multipurpose events venue parking is also supposed to contribute.
And how does the city repay the bonds, the upfront money it spends to build those two pieces over time?
Yeah, the question, do we have the money to do this? How are we going to pay for it? The answer is, of course, we have the money to pay for it. We have enough money in reserves to pay for it, but we won't do it that way. We'll do it through bonds, which is the way anyone does any kind of big real estate project. And then what you're trying to do is get the lowest interest rate possible, and then you want to service the debt. Because it's publicly funded, the bonding part, we will get a low rate, and then the question is, where's the money to pay back the bond proceeds that you just got to build these buildings? And that's where the hotel occupancy tax comes in. The biggest piece of the debt service comes from that. And I think the MPEV piece, the latest numbers on that, it's $1.38 million a year of debt service comes out of the hotel and occupancy tax. Right now, today, at this moment, there's about $1.8 million available. So it's clear that the money is there. It's money that is dedicated to this kind of project. And while you could argue, oh, let's do some other project that would be a better solution, this is where we are. We're in the middle of a plan and we need to finish it.
Those against the ballpark have speculated that hot money should be used for the Civic Center improvements. Why are you robbing the Civic Center of funds?
Well, first, we're not robbing any existing use. I mean, that tax already had dedicated uses, and all of those uses are going to continue. The great thing that's happening here is the hoteliers in town have been so successful that the amount of taxes that have been collected from people driving through Amarillo is up dramatically. And just the increase is enough to go over and pay the debt service on the MPEV. And there's some other sources of funding, but that big piece that's going to the MPEV, it's there, it's available.
The vote on November 3rd is not about whether or not to have an MPEV. It's about whether to have a baseball stadium in the event venue. So how would dropping baseball from this equation affect the whole project?
Well, I guess one of the positive things to say is I think all 5 city councilmen are now public on record as saying, I know we have to do something. I know there has to be a multi-purpose entertainment venue. So now the dialogue is just about what are we going to put in it. You and I could differ on, gosh, what would be the best thing to put in it. I don't know why we would start the conversation by saying, let's don't put something in it. For example, if you were going to build a shopping mall like Westgate, would you start off by saying, but I'm never putting a Dillard store in it because I just don't want to have a Dillard store? No, you would have a more rational analysis and decision about what needs to go in it. So if there is a no vote on November 3, I think all that you've accomplished is you've taken an option off the table as to what we can or should do.
Why is it difficult for the pro baseball organizations and arguers to give specifics about the stadium, down to people have asked the cost of the ticket prices and all of those things? Were you able to get that far in your planning?
No, and it's really not the city's job to figure out those kind of details. Just like you should not have the city council trying to run the city of Amarillo, you shouldn't have the city council trying to figure out what ticket prices should be. There are other people far more qualified to do that. But this is a long, complex project, and to bring all that to fruition takes time. So, for example, 4 years ago, when we said, let's see if we can get someone to build us a hotel and give it to us, would you have thought that was possible? No, but that's happening. And how much are they going to charge for lunch? I have no idea, but we're going to have a great hotel.
What is the city under contract specifically to produce for the hotel, and has that been accomplished?
The primary contract is a lease and development agreement with the developers of the hotel. It's a signed document. It's in place, and the construction phase has already started. Then there is a long-term lease and an operating phase. From the city's perspective, yes, it's a 160-page contract, and it's difficult, and it's got a lot of those lawyer words in it. But really the concept is pretty simple. All we want is a nice hotel. And so the standard is there that it must be built and operated as a 4-diamond hotel. We do not have one in Amarillo. We are the largest city in Texas that does not have a 4-diamond hotel. We deserve it. We've got it. It's coming. Across the street, they need to have a place to park their cars, and built into the hotel lease and development agreement is a provision that there will be a parking garage with 750 spaces and 24,000 square feet of retail. So there is that obligation in the hotel contract.
As far as the baseball stadium goes, there are many that have wondered if independent baseball, Southern Independent Baseball is not paying very much to be in Potter County Memorial Stadium. Is what it would pay to be in the new stadium unrealistic for independent baseball?
Well, you're comparing apples and oranges because the present stadium is unequivocally the worst stadium in the entire league, and the other owners of teams in the league have raised the issue of whether it is so bad it's unsafe for their players to play baseball in. So what they're paying out there is not relevant to what you would pay to be in a real, honest-to-God stadium, which is the thing we're talking about building.
And as far as the MPEV, what is the most vital thing? We've got just a few minutes left. What is the most vital thing for voters to know as they go to the polls on November 3rd?
I think the most vital thing to know is downtown has been through decades of non-development. Buildings have been torn down. There's lots of open space. And it's our downtown. It's the middle of your downtown. It's the middle of my downtown. Someone needs to take care of it. That's up to us. And you cannot ignore it. So if I said to you, you haven't replaced your carpet in 40 years, that wouldn't be a surprise. So to say we need to pay some attention to our downtown after 40 years of neglect shouldn't be a surprise. If you haven't been downtown, go downtown. It is shocking how much has already changed in just the last couple of years, and it's only going to get better.
How confident are you that the MPEV vote will come out moving downtown forward with the stadium?
I used to be much more confident about a lot of things because I felt like we had gone through a very long process of citizen involvement to develop a comprehensive long-term plan to develop a large real estate project. It seems like we've reduced that to an election cycle issue, and it shouldn't be that a change in the city council disrupts a 6-year development plan. You can't build Amarillo that way, and we need to build on what those before us did and make it better, not just tear it down. So what's going to happen? Well, I hope it passes, but whether it passes or fails, the next day you still have to get up and go deal with the same 5 people that are on the city council today. They'll still be there on November the 4th, the day after the election.
What do you believe is driving, and we're really short now, so in a few words, what do you believe is driving the opposition to the ballpark?
I think, well, if you're running for a local election, it's very hard to come up with an issue. You want to come up with an issue so someone will notice you and vote for you, and so it's difficult. And I think some of the new people seized on the issue of, well, I can be against the ballpark. That's something that will attract attention. Well, unfortunately, when you seize on that issue in the election, then you're stuck with it once you're elected. And so you do feel an obligation to do whatever it is that you believe you were elected to do. When you run on a platform of change and transparency, the person who got elected may have a fixed opinion of what that is, but all those voters out in Amarillo probably have a different opinion of what change they wanted. And I think the most succinct way I've heard it expressed is, I voted for change, not crazy.
Richard Brown, thank you for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me.
While we're rolling, can you answer one more question? Karen, could you asking, I don't know if we'll use it, but in hindsight, Richard, you've had time to think about this now. In hindsight, do you have any regrets, or could you have done anything differently, or, you know?
So the question is, in hindsight, could you have done anything differently? Are there regrets in the downtown planning? And also what mistakes may have been made along the way?
Well, I think in hindsight, you can always find some way you could have done better at the time. After going through 20 years of almost nothing happening, the last 10 or 12 years have been very exciting because you could see some progress. You could see changes being made. I don't think any big mistakes have been made. Going too slow was maybe the biggest mistake.
Why was that?
A lot of people would like to blame that on Wallace Bajali, who was the master developer who was hired to help the city do this. If they had been better at their job, if they had been better funded, if they hadn't gotten distracted with their Joplin project, you know, I can imagine a scenario where we could have gone a lot faster. And that's the principal reason I think that we've gone through so much delay. And just to illustrate, if you go and look at the Excel project today, they probably started planning maybe a year and a half ago. We started planning on the hotel project maybe 6 years ago, and they're ahead of us.
Did the implosion of Wallace Bajali, coupled with kind of the silence from City Hall about the project as contracts were being negotiated, give rise to opposition? Did it fill the vacuum?
It's never a good thing when the master developer hired by the city implodes. That's
Right.
not the way you would have designed it. And then naturally you want to blame somebody for, well, why didn't you pick a better horse that would win the race? Part of the answer is there weren't very many horses in the race. It's really hard to find someone who has any kind of experience in public-private partnerships. There's one less now because there's no Wallace Bajali. I think we in Amarillo got to the point where we were able to build on what they did teach us. And we did get some good things out of Wallace Bajali. They did get us on the track and got us started.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.